I'm so sorry, Evie. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. And this was the next up in my secretly reading favorites, this one being Evie. Now, granted, I did on a live mention that I had a hold on this from the library and was going to be giving it a shot at some point, but I did not actually let her know I was reading it or anything like that, so this will be the first time that she's hearing about it. I feel like my results were too good when I did this with the other ones because this wasn't bad, but this was definitely the least successful, I'd say, from this experiment so far. But we're going to talk about it because I do get why this one is popular and why some people like it, but it also just did some things that I wasn't a huge fan of. So what's The Spear Cuts Through Water? Well, this is a very multi-layered type of story, but at the heart of it is we have two boys who are trying to, they're caught up in some big events and they're trying to get somebody somewhere, essentially, is the kind of thing. But it's being told in a variety of different ways and tenses, and going for like this super like over the top literary type approach, which I can see some people really enjoying. For me, I think it gets to be a little bit too much. This does use both first person, second person, and third person tense throughout. And some of it I think is sort of interesting, and other parts of it I find just a little bit unnecessary. We're presented like we start with the second tense, the like you're doing this, you this, and somebody who's kind of watching somehow these events unfold, who has their own story, and then we have the events unfolding. And then what it does is, as we're going, we'll like hop to somebody else, and we'll hear their inner first person talking and that type of thing in the story on what's going on. And at the heart of it too, this is kind of like, if you it really common in fantasy books, you'll have like the description of the gods, often involving like the sun and the moon. And kind of the base story here is you have the moon ended up like coming down, and an emperor brought the moon down, and like the moon is like a goddess, and she gives birth to children. But then there's these other things going on, and there's actually literally not a moon in the world, which is interesting. But so it's kind of like that creation mythos, so to speak, that's usually done in like a page in most fantasy books, but instead we're doing it over this whole really big long book with it. And that's where it's sort of interesting. I will say that this did grow on me a little bit. It took me quite a while to get into this book. I just found it really, really difficult to kind of click with me. And while I still didn't really care for the way that this was done, or like the style, it definitely got much better with the way that it actually, like, I'm like, okay, I'm actually enjoying this quite a bit more as I went along. But so it may take a little bit, but I just overall, I think the biggest thing I struggled with is it felt like, to me, for the most part, the choices stylistically using the different tenses was more a style over substance type of thing. Specifically the second person. I've read one thing ever that used second person and actually made it make sense and had a really good reason for it, and that was Ogres by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is another one of those things where it just seems to be doing it because it's the literary thing to do. And for me, usually when I'm reading the second person, it's like, it doesn't necessarily bother me, but it's just I want it to have a point or a reason. And in my opinion, this never really does. There was never anything that like made it be like, oh, that's why you did it. It seemed like it really was just more of the stylistic choice without really needing to do it. It does help differentiate between the different levels, and so I think that might be the reason why, because when you're in the second person, that's one specific facet of the story. It's somebody who has their own story, their own life, and they're witnessing the events of what's happening in the third person story. And then within the third person version of the story, you'll switch randomly to first person, and that's somebody specifically like getting their thoughts. Like very, very early on, not a spoiler, but very early on, there's a character who is like on trial, and he's being asked questions, and accusations are being made, and he's not really saying much. But then you get these big statements or things that he like wants to say that are in his head in the first person, and so it's done that kind of way. Sometimes also you'll a character that's only there for a short while, you'll switch and you'll get like what's happening with them, like a miscellaneous soldier or just a random person passing by, that type of thing. And I think that can be done really well. What it reminded me of didn't hold up as well for me, but what it reminded me of is Guy Gavriel Kay has a tendency to kind of head hop like that, where he'll hop to a random character and you'll get just a tiny little bit of their story or what's going on or what their mindset is. I was also reading a Guy Gavriel Kay novel at the same time as this, which may have hurt this a little bit because I think Kay does a much better job with that. So I kind of get what it's going for there, and it really is, I think, ambitious doing this story layered the way that it is. But it again, overall, I felt like it just was a bit unnecessary. And granted, I shouldn't even say unnecessary because it's it's a book, it's art, it's being done in a specific way, it's its own performance in a way. So I get it. It just, for me, it was too much. It didn't feel like it served enough of a purpose for me to really want to get into it that way. And for me, it was more of a hindrance. It made it a lot harder for me to get into this. I think at the heart of this, there's a good story, and the relationship between our two characters. They are trying to like get somebody away because there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's a coup happening with the emperor. There's the sons of the emperor who are known as the terrors, who all have like different powers, and so it's these two people for their own reasons who have their own stories who are trying to go and accomplish something for some different reasons. And the world itself is really interesting. There's all of these kind of cool tidbits. Part of what the way we discover the world, it reminded me a little bit of The West Passage by Jared Pachek, which I read not that long ago as well, which was much shorter and much weirder than this, but just with sort of the odd little bits and pieces here, because there were just some really strange things that were going on. I will say that despite all of sort of the odd stuff, this was a very easy book to visualize. So if you're somebody who likes visualizing as you read, I think the imagery here works really, really well with just the way that things were described. And I very often, even if it was kind of an odd thing, for some reason, this was extremely easy to visualize. So I will give it that as well. And it really, like I said, this is more of one of those things where it's just, I think it went a bit too far for me and for my personal taste. So I'm really not hating on this book. I think if you really like the literary devices and like the multiple layers and the switches like that, if that's the kind of thing that you really like and you read for, I can get this working really well for you. That's not really something that I care about. I've read some stuff that's more like literary fantasy, and I've read plenty of stuff that's not, but that's not specifically what I go through. Like, I love when things are done well, or like there's theme, and this does handle theme really strongly with the types of themes that it's going for, which I feel like I don't want to talk about too much because it is a really big part of what it is exploring and the way that it's exploring. So I think this is really well done. It's just also a book that I struggled a bit with, and based on this, I really don't have a lot of interest in checking out anything else from this author if this is the kind of stuff it's going to be. I don't imagine it to be exactly like this, but just the kind of the style is just not really a good fit for what I like and what I'm looking for in books. So this was an interesting experiment, an interesting read, and I ended up 3 stars. So I didn't dislike this, but I didn't particularly like it either. It was just like, this is okay. It has some strong points, but it got a little bit more like especially odd at the end a little bit. And so while I think parts of it worked really well, it just also so many things just sort of happen. And it kind of just makes sense. And I found myself not questioning a ton as you're in there and as you're in the experience. Because this is, despite all of my like nitpicks and complaints here, this is an immersive story once you get in there. I had a really hard time getting immersed. Once I did, it then felt very immersive and very easy to go along with. From there, it just took me way too long to get there. But this is, like I said, is really going to be, it just depends what you look for if you're reading. If you like something a little bit more simple and straightforward, this is really not going to be for you. This is an extremely stylized, complex mechanic and style of the way that it's being written. And if you are somebody who really likes that type of thing and you don't like it if something's too straightforward, this may be a good one to check out. Ultimately, while this didn't fully work for me, I think it was interesting. I'm glad I finally tried this because I've been very curious because I'd heard a lot of people talk about this a while back, especially. So, it wasn't 100% a win for me, but I do like trying different things like this. So this was still a good experience. And like I said, I definitely think there's a type of reader who this would be a really big win for. I just don't know that I'm 100% that type of reader. Overall, though, those are my thoughts on The Spirit Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. Let me know if you've read this, your thoughts on this, if you agree, disagree. I imagine there's pretty wide-ranging opinions on this, most likely, so definitely let me know in the comments. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizard of the Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And, of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.